Welcome to the Ink Panels Graphic Novel Book Club. I am Dan and joined by Adriana, pretty nerdy, and our special guest, Chris, Chaos and Comics. I've been wanting to get him on ever since we did John's Comics with Kids 10 of Swords wrap-up show. You still have a channel, right? Do you still work on it? Or okay.
I have one.
Go ahead and sub him up if you haven't, and also Adriana. As you can tell, we are without Jen and Gambit. They are out for several different reasons. So hopefully relax, get right, and we'll see you next show. So Adriana's pick for this month was Black Hole by Charles Burns. Why don't you go ahead and introduce it?
Okay. Black Hole by Charles Burns. It is a book that took 10 years to get 12 issues out. The basis of this story is it's kind of like the 70s, and these kids in this small town are catching a bug, and it's causing them to have certain mutations, and then there's a plot twist at the end, and I guess we'll get into that when we get there.
It had been at least 10 years since the last time I read it.
Mm-hmm, me too.
And Chris and I were talking beforehand that if ever there was a movie that should be directed by David Cronenberg with the body horror of it, it's this. And I also wondered possibly if the director or writer of It Follows was like, all right, I can't do it with body horror, but we're going to have supernatural STDs.
Yeah.
It's got a bit of a David Lynch vibe also.
Are they supernatural?
I mean,
felt like they were science.
Kind of like
a little bit.
I
hated that movie.
Yeah, that's actually a good question. Is what was happening? Were they? Because was there? There was a mouth on a neck, obviously, that talked. Otherwise, everything else was like skin shedding and.
Mm-hmm.
What was he said? Like he had tadpoles. It looked like on his chest.
Tadpoles, yeah.
Yeah, lizard tails.
Lizard tails. That sounds like mutations.
Mm-hmm.
Were they on Krakoa? Could they go?
Yeah, there you go.
So I was saying beforehand, I don't know if there was a point to this book.
No.
Was there something we were supposed to learn other than if you're thirsty enough, you won't care if someone has an STD?
Right. From what I understand, you have to go into this book without expecting there to be a point or a reason, because it really was a lot of ad-libbing and development over all that time. Like in between issues, what he thought he was going to put in the next one evolved and changed. And it kind of just turned into whatever it turned into. And there really was never like a solidified point to it. It's just a really messed up coming of age story.
Now that Jen brings it up, there is a Junji Ito vibe that I really didn't even think about when reading it.
Yeah, that's the body horror. I think likely Junji Ito might be more influenced by him, because he was doing this kind of stuff in the 80s. I don't know when Junji Ito's early stuff was out, but he was doing. He has other comics. Like I also reread a big baby book I have by him, which is probably his other famous work. And I didn't realize it, but yeah, there's a teen STD story in there where they get disfigured also. So he clearly was like playing with it, and then was like, well, I'm gonna make 12 issues out of this. So. But I think you guys sort of hit it. Like, it's not plot driven. It's more of a seat of your pants, put the characters in certain situations and make them do some weird stuff, So
I did have a minor complaint about the art, and it's so petty, but a lot of the faces looked alike, even for the males and females. Like Chris in particular, like her face always, it would like I'd see Rob, and except for like the chin hair, it almost looked the same.
Yeah, it was easy.
The only person who looks different to me is Eliza, and then otherwise, like you very easily get all the dudes confused. Like I finished the book and I couldn't tell you but 3 of the names. Like, yeah.
So I think that is definitely happening. But one of the things he is doing is sort of drawing the old romance novels, right? Like they were all, even though it's dark and it has that weird woodcut look sort of vibe, it doesn't have a pencil vibe. The figures were all very like 50s romance comics, right? So, and he
very
said
soap opera too.
Yeah, I definitely soap opera, but really that like, you know, Chuck loves Laura, you know, that, I mean, Kirby used to write them actually and draw them, you know, so if you really look,
some of those.
yeah, like the 50s and 40s and whatnot, and then they got unpopular later on when, you know, he started drawing Fantastic Four and whatnot, but he was heavily influenced by that, and it's almost like the little freak out version of it.
I also was saying for a big go ahead.
Sorry. I was listening to some podcasts about the book, like people who were analyzing it and stuff. And this one guy said that there was an interview at some point where Charles said that he drew inspiration from those like romance comics because they were not like a thing that was prevalent or, you know, relevant at the time. So it just added a whole nother layer of what makes it different, you know?
For such a large book, this went really fast. Like one sitting last night finished it without taking a pause. And we were kind of saying there's a lot of pages with no words that are just images. Mm-hmm. So you could kind of fly by pretty fast. And as Chris was saying earlier, the matte paper instead of the gloss also actually makes the art kind of a little bit better how it's meant to be.
Yeah, Charles himself said he didn't like printing it on the glossy paper in the single issues because of that. So everything got switched over to this paper.
Yeah, so this is my first time reading it with the glossy paper. And I only have the first 7 issues. So it was a little bit different. I do like it that it's comic book size, right? So, you know, they were a little bit bigger panels. Mm-hmm. And the thing I noticed, and I had to go back and check, is one thing we're missing is, so these portraits, these larger portraits on every issue are in the front, and they're actually in the back of this, but you lose. So this is all like copyright stuff, but this is like narrative stuff. So if you had not, so this is just not in the, you know, the version that we have, this other version, right?
Yeah.
And so I sort of understood what was going on a little bit more, like real early. So I didn't read this 10 years ago. I read this maybe 4 years ago and 2 years ago, right? Even though I knew about it, I just had 1 or 2 issues and didn't find it. But like I sort of understood right away, you know, that everyone was like going to the forest and whatnot. You know, you could see it was basically it was narrative that was missing, to be honest, that I think would have been helpful. And I when I switched over, I have issues 1 through 7. So when I switched over on issue 7, I actually missed that beginning part to like set me up for what was going to go on for the, you know, issues 8 through 12.
They kind of take all of those and compile them into one
at the end.
At the beginning,
the beginning.
And then at the end, it's the mutated kids. But you're right, you lose all of that narrative. You lose that side-by-side comparison of each individual. Like, you really do lose a lot.
Yeah, and the art
when you lose those 2 pages at the beginning.
Yeah, and you're really there for like the, you know, the normal guy, which I guess he was just a lot of these guys were just literally copied out of his yearbook. So, you know, there's some guy probably in suburban Seattle that's like, that's me, you motherfucker. And that one's not as pronounced, but some of them are. I listened to an interview yesterday, and he actually pointed one out, and she goes, she was a really nice girl. But like, you know, that one's a little bit more intense, but it was cooler to see these bigger. And just as a collector, because I mean, the book is relevant, like it's indie relevant, right? So I'll end up trying to go find, you know, 8 through 12 in single issues. And obviously I have the trade if I want to read it again. Before you jumped on, me and Dan were talking about how that this was the only thing in recent time that this was close to, and it's hard to say because Hoxpox is like so mainstream, and this was an indie comic, was Hoxpox, because like, you know, when you would hear people, and some people that like answered, you know, that responded to some of my Twitter posts and Instagram posts as I was rereading it, some people like were buying it as it was coming out, and it was like, it was an event. It was this yearly event, and people like from Congo Kayfabe, they'd be like, you know, they came out once a year, so when the new one came out, you would read the 3 previous ones or the 8 previous ones.
Mm-hmm.
And for people that were, you know, where these kind of like indie or, you know, non-superhero stuff, you know, that was on their radar in like 1995, 1998, which was not me. I was buying Spawn and shit. You know, it was a big event for them. And that's a different way to experience it too, you know, because Charles Burns at that time was, you know, in the same group of underground cartoonists that everyone loved, like Art Spiegelman, who's in the news a ton right now, of course, and I can't remember, Daniel Cowles and a couple other guys, you know. So
well, I remember you bringing up R. Crumb earlier about the drugs and stuff the other day.
Oh, the R. Crumb tweet was, I would like it more if half his art wasn't like him drawing stuff to jerk off to, but he draws other stuff too, you know, and he draw all the good jazz guys and stuff. But you know, he was in that mix, and this was a big event. And this time when I read it, especially reading the single issues, I try to take it in that way, you know, not as a graphic novel, but as something that, you know, came in these individual packages, you know, because each issue actually is pretty different, right? Like there's not a narrative, like we said. So you almost have to take them like these little, Dan says it's more Cronenberg and definitely for the body horror stuff, but I think it's more David Lynch for just the weird situations everyone's put in.
I mean, it draws from a lot of people drew inspiration from that, but Cronenberg already kind of existed. And yes, David Lynch also, if you put in Eraserhead and some of the other David Lynch stuff.
Eraserhead for sure.
Mulholland Drive you mentioned earlier, which really, if you watch it and you're not paying attention, you'll walk out of it going, I don't know what the fuck I just watched.
Which is what happened to me in 1998 or whenever it came out, 1995. Or as a teenager, I watched that. I was like, I have no fuck. It was only later that I read about it and figured out that it was like 2 different worlds.
So weirdly, you brought up Hoxpox as being an event. There was a point in time where Warren Ellis Planetary was coming out so infrequently that it almost was once a year. And that was kind of I have to go back and read everything because there's all these lingering strings that they keep hanging.
Gore is here.
Scott Snyder, 4-hour cut of Zack Snyder, 4-hour cut, not Scott Snyder. Although 70s adolescence. I guess it's about loneliness to a degree. I mean, definitely exclusion and feeling like you don't belong, like the people who have to leave town. There is the end where I'm not sure if the killer and everything was originally planned or if that's something that changed as it went.
That totally had to have like been a last minute decision. Like it kind of tied up some loose ends and gave you some explanations, but there were still things that were not explained, like the arm in the woods.
Yes,
but the killer shot everybody.
Yeah.
But nobody else had any kind of mutation that involved losing a limb. So why was there an arm in the woods? And they treated it so casually. Like it's just they find arms in the woods all the time or something like that. I don't know. But I agree with the loneliness part, but I also think that only applies to certain characters. I think that their mutations are a manifestation of their inner selves. So the guy with the mouth that can't lie, you know what I mean, is like he's kind of a sneaky guy and cheating on his girlfriend and stuff like that. So the mouth is like symbolic of that. And then the girl shedding her skin, her inner self is ready to like move on to a new chapter. So I think, the loneliness applies to certain characters, but not to all of them, because some of the characters that have the mutations are passing and they're still living a normal life and they're still surrounded by people and nothing changed. So it just depends on how it manifested.
Do you think that loneliness is the way it's just with some characters, not others? Do you think that's just a part of probably the overall message or illusion is to like growing up or the teenage years,
change and feeling different, outcast?
Yeah.
I think it also kind of points out circumstance too.
I just love how these people have like no shits given about the sex. They're like, oh yeah, she's got it, but fuck it.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let me kiss this other mouth on your neck.
Ugh, that part skeeved me out.
Oh, when she drops it?
When she's like, here, let me... No.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
There were two parts. So I'm going to make another weird comparison. And it's not the same because one's comedy and this is like horror indie. But I remember when I first watched Meet the Parents, it wasn't funny, but it was funny because he was just in such awkward situations. Right. And you just felt bad for him. And you were just like, I felt nervous the first time I watched it. And maybe it was my age or whatever. But this is like the same for horror. Like you know what I mean? Where she's like, fuck it, I'm going to kiss this mouth on your neck. Or I'm going to bone this girl with the tail. You know what I mean? And no one really cared about it. There were those, one of you guys said skeevy. You know what I mean? There was that feeling of like, it was like, it's still like body horror almost, right? But it's not death. Yeah. It's more like sexual body.
When he breaks off the end of her tail too. Ugh.
Yeah, where she's like, just pull it out of the way and it's broken.
Yeah, he's like holding it.
Yeah. It just feels like dead leg for a while.
It'll grow back.
Them also like backtracking on what happened to her at the house. Eliza, where she's like, oh, she looks tired and beaten, and then you find out that she got like pretty much humiliated and raped. Mm-hmm. Just it was a weird thing to backtrack to, and I wasn't expecting to have such a vitriol reaction, but it was so graphic the way it was drawn.
Yeah,
with the humiliation part of it, which I don't know why I was surprised that it was in it. I guess I was surprised the level it went to.
Yeah. No, and then with that, like there was a lot of symbolic things involved there. Like she got rid of all of her art and stuff. It was like they stripped her of that identity. And then when she's back around, his name's Keith, right? He like revives her, just like him being there revives her. And they never really fully explain like she went from being like rock bottom falling apart to right back to bright, shiny, and sunshine,
And apparently Charles Burns has never seen a flaccid penis because everybody's rock hard.
All the time. It's the 70s with a lot of drugs, everybody's a lot of attention.
I was just like, why is everybody hard constantly? And I know that's a weird thing to focus on, but like,
they all have the same penis too.
Yeah.
Every one of them is exactly the same. No variety in that town.
He had one reference picture.
Yeah, he had one reference. That's just it. If you're an artist that draws lots of penises and it's always the same penis, then we've all seen Charles Burns' penis. Basically.
He's the Rob Liefeld of penises.
He's just staring down, going, all right.
Close enough.
Yeah.
Another thing that I heard that I found really interesting and I didn't notice on my own is the panels. When they're sober, the panels are very straightforward. They're square, they're rectangular, they're all in a row. And then as they're getting high, they turn wobbly and curvy edges and kind of just thrown together in like a puddle on the page.
Oh, I thought those were flashbacks.
So, I thought that was pretty cool.
I might be wrong. But
really? Is it a flashback thing? I thought it was like, to me, it seemed like when they were like getting effed up, it seemed like it was crazier. But maybe you're right. I didn't think about it like that.
They're always getting effed up too.
The flashbacks, it's wavy. Because then when she's going back with her friend Marcy.
I'm trying to find the page for you. when
he's
they're
tripping in the
actually
woods,
screwed up,
there's
like,
nothing.
I'm trying to find it. This book is so long. So like this is what I mean.
Hold on.
When they're really high, it ends up like just
yeah, that might be a
all
drug
over
one.
the place.
Yeah, that might be a drug one. What I thought you were talking about was these pages. You
That's
see
what
how
I was looking at.
There's
those
like
are
3
flashbacks,
levels
but I
here,
think
I
what
guess.
Yeah. I think what you're talking about is, I think those are like, I think those are trips and stuff. And then there's another one where they're basically squares, and then he just makes them wavy around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then Keith gets real up on bologna sandwiches with Miracle Whip.
Breakfast of Champions.
Yeah, where she's like, why does he keep bringing me bologna sandwiches?
So I have so this has been optioned and unoptioned a whole bunch of times. Mm-hmm. One of the scripts that was written, or at least partly written, was by Neil Gaiman. So I don't think this is one of those things. I can name a couple like movies where the novels just shouldn't be movies. One of them was Less Than Zero, and any Bret Easton Ellis novel, really. But or American Psycho, maybe some people like that. But the novel is way different, right?
Yeah, I mean, really,
this would be a
Christian Bale.
Yeah, this wouldn't be, the movie would be completely different because it would have a plot, it would have 3 acts and whatnot. But what do you guys think about? I mean, I don't know how much Neil Gaiman you guys have all read, but what do you guys think about Neil Gaiman adapting this script for a movie? And that's gone; it's not happening. But he did write the script, I think.
I feel it's a bad fit.
Huh?
I feel like Neil Gaiman. Yeah, like really bad. Like it's just not his wheelhouse. Mm-hmm. Like, ooh, that would be terrible. I had heard there was another version going around that the kid from Riverdale, Cole Sprouse, who plays Jughead, was attached to for Keith.
Did you hear what he said?
Yeah.
No, he said Riverdale is like Black Hole by Charles Burns.
That's what I heard.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the way he plays Jughead. I've never watched Riverdale, but I read the same thing.
Dude, he thought he was so deep when he said that.
This is Black Hole, except on the CW.
Yeah.
So we're not going to have hard cocks constantly on screen. The same one. Maybe that's the mutation. Everybody gets the same dick.
Yeah, I don't remember Betty or Veronica. I don't remember Betty or Veronica ever shedding their skin like a snake,
or having a tail.
I mean, they might have a tail. You don't really see them. Oh, maybe in a bikini, but other than that, they may have a tail. I don't know, but the skin shedding is harder to hide.
Yeah.
Black Hole is Euphoria. I haven't watched enough of that show. But yeah, like totally, like if anybody was going to make this, like it 100% would be David Cronenberg, in my opinion, should be involved. Or who's the guy? Oh, Lars von Trier, who did.
Okay, I was going to say him. I was going to say Lars von Trier. It would be like the Dutch guy that doesn't like to go on planes.
Yes.
So, yeah. Lars von Trier is the other guy, and it could be like this 7-hour movie. It wouldn't matter. He's like, this 7-hour movie I filmed on my 8mm camera, and we edited it with razor blades.
Like literally, Antichrist is one of the most disturbing movies I have watched in a long time. Like even horror directors are like, I don't fucking ever want to watch that movie again.
I've never seen it. I've seen one Lars von Trier movie and I liked it. It had something to do with like oil tanker people. And I liked it. I just never watched another one.
Oh, that might be Breaking the Waves.
Maybe. This would have been 10 or 15 years. When you guys were reading Black Hole, I was watching this movie.
That's who needs to make Black Hole. Lars von Trier. Woo! Yeah. I mean, I'd be interested. Like that stuff with Jodorowsky where he wanted to make a 14-hour version of Dune.
Oh, that would have been awesome.
He was like, I tell you what, I will go down to 12 and that's it. And they were like, get the fuck out of this room.
No further negotiations.
Like literally, they were just like, "You can leave." Funny story about this. In the documentary, the guy who invented, or who was the writer of Alien.
H.R. Geiger.
The writer of Adano
Oh, the
Banyan.
actual writer, yeah.
He got kidnapped by Jodorowsky. He went to visit to talk to him, and he kept him stoned in France for 2 months. Emily Watson or Emma Watson starred. I don't think I ever saw Breaking the Waves. Did we ever figure out who the fuck was, like, why they were putting all the Blair Witch stuff hanging all over? Like, I don't know if I missed it. Reason?
It was Dave trying to, like, be creepy, I think, is what I gathered. He was just power hungry and enjoyed the fact that, like, he could scare the shit out of everybody, and it was just all head games type stuff. And then it made what's her face, Chris, uncomfortable and nervous and scared, so she would have to go to him for, comfort and safety and support. So I think it was a multifaceted thing with him.
Well, when you first announced, Dan, that you were going to do this book, and I think it was Adriana that answered in your IG.
Yeah.
But we, you know what I mean? One of the things that's important, and Adriana's touched on it twice, is that there's like a shift, like around, issue 8, 9, I don't know what it was, right? Maybe 7, I don't know. And there's this shift where he's like, oh, I got to wind this down. Yeah. I've written by the seat of my pants and just written weird crap for a while now. And I think that's what it was, is what was the murderer's name again? Dave? Yeah. It's okay. We got to point it at somebody, reveal it, and actually have like the one element of plot, just to end it in a certain way, which I think is probably why the arm situation, I don't even remember the arm, to be honest.
It showed up once and that was it.
Yeah. Huh? It wasn't a doll arm, was it? It was a real arm?
No, it was a human arm because Keith finds it when he's tripping in the woods.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I think I remember that. And so there's, some of that stuff is left alone because you could tell at a certain point he goes, oh crap, I need to start like pointing this in a certain way. And in a way, yeah. There's these like writers that are very, very planned out. That doesn't necessarily mean that things don't change. So like someone like a Kieran Gillen will write a Bible, and for the most part, he knows exactly how Die or Wicked and Divine is going to end, right? Then there's other writers like what's his name that writes Game of Thrones, right?
George R. R. Martin, where
he
has a loose note.
Yeah, very seat of your pants, right? But so the show, did that for like however many seasons, 8 seasons or whatever. And when they needed to end it, in most people's eyes, they like fucked it up, right? Like people hate that last season. And I didn't hate Black Hole at all, but I could see that happening, is where he just sort of like was doing a seat of your pants, how I feel, stream of consciousness almost, even though it takes him 2 weeks to do a page. So drawing wise, not that, right? But stream of consciousness. And then, at some point, and I think Adriana, you were pointing that out, he goes, oh man, we gotta
do something here.
Yeah, we gotta start winding this down. I gotta start making plans for it to, so it ends at 12.
I feel like a lot of it, like he was just like, I'm going to put all these things out here. I'm going to do the shocking crimes and stuff like that. And then I'll explain, I'll figure out who to put it on later. And then I'll find a way to explain it later. I'm going to put this here now because it's shocking. It's exciting. It adds something to this particular issue. We'll figure it out later. Who did it? Why did they do it? All that. So yeah.
I think that's right on.
Like around 8 where he was like, all right, yeah, I do have to kind of figure out what the point is.
So here's the big baby.
And really, he could have ended it on.
No, go ahead. Finish your thought.
He could have ended it on the Dave stuff, but I like that he left it open-ended with that last scene with Chris, where it just kind of is she's giving up, she's giving herself into the water, and you're up to interpret how you want to interpret that is specifically what Charles said. He said, that's not how I interpreted it, but it's up to you. He put so much, like he almost over-explained the Dave stuff when it came time to explain it. That we could have ended on the Dave stuff and not had that last scene, but I like that we did get that last scene because it kind of like smoothed the surface between over-explaining the Dave stuff and kind of, we still need to know what happened with Chris, and we want to know what happened with Chris, and is she at peace and all that. So I appreciate that last scene was in there, but there was a lot that went into the Dave explanation.
It was a form of Kurt Vonnegut writing. Yeah. That all of a sudden is like, I got to sprint to the end. I'm kind of seeing that with Terry Moore's Serial right now, where it's like the end's coming. I have to start really tying this shit together, and kind of, I feel like it's hurrying too much, where an extra issue or two might be better, but you know, Terry Moore's a way better.
I have both graphic novels, so no spoilers there.
Oh, no. Terry Moore's a better storyteller than I'll ever be, so I'm going to trust in the process. It just felt it was starting to rush a little bit.
Yeah, I think we read the same New York Times, I guess it was New York Times or Vulture, whatever article, Adriana, that where some people saw. So what did you guys see it as? Because I don't think I thought about it that hard, but when Chris just swims out into the ocean, because he said he had that planned already, but some people saw it as a suicide.
Yeah, that's how I interpreted it, because throughout the book, they use water as their calm place. Anytime they're like, oh, they're attracted to the water, and it brings them peace and it brings them calm. So her just kind of like giving up and going out as far as she could go, and then it just ends on her just floating. Like, I interpreted that as she had given up, and you know, that was the end of it.
I almost interpreted it as like a new beginning, like starting over. But yes, I could see now as suicide, because she did that in the lake before when she stripped down and went into the lake, and I thought she was going to kill herself, but then she just got right out of the water and was like, what's everybody looking at?
Yeah. So to be clear, in the interview that Adriana and I are referencing, he doesn't see it that way. He just goes, he was surprised that people did. I don't know how I saw it. I think that by that time I was already like used to just things being illusions, or you know, the seat of your pants writing. I sort of let it be. I have this so this is Big Baby. So this is where he originally got famous. I mean, he never got famous, right? But these were his comic strips before Black Hole, and I guess why they're relevant today is they shared space in Raw magazine, and Raw magazine is Art Spiegelman's sort of anthology magazine where Mouse first appeared. So, you know, obviously, if Mouse was taken out of that Tennessee library, you'd expect Black Hole to have been taken out too, right? But anyway, without getting into Big Baby, this is one of the comic strips where he first like started doing the teen sex STD sort of thing, and at some point he decides to do 12 issues on it, whether it was repetitive or not. And I think there's one other story that I don't have of his. This is the only two things I've ever read is Big Baby and this. So.
No, if you showed me pages out of Big Baby and just held them up in front of my face, I would have thought it was right out of Black Hole. Like it really is very.
Yeah, they're very close. I was rereading this.
Practicing for Black Hole with Big Baby.
Yeah, he probably was, because he was mostly doing strips. Just a side note, I was reading this at a restaurant, and the waitress asked me if that was One Punch. So I don't know if you guys remember
One Punch Man.
So, but not only that, when I posted on Twitter, because I do my 500 comic goal or whatever, when I posted this on Twitter, someone else posted, you know, is that not is that One Punch, but posted a One Punch GIF. So people think that's One Punch, I guess. I don't know.
That's funny.
Completely different.
Usually on the show, I start saying, like, if people like this, what would you recommend? Or, you know, if this is in someone's kind of vein, like, what's another book like this you'd recommend? And I started struggling mightily with this.
Well, I have an off-the-wall answer for you.
Yeah.
It doesn't line up exclusively, but coincidentally, the second book I really got into after this one was Death Sentence. It's a UK comic, and it's a mini series. There's 6 issues, and then there's Death Sentence London, where all these people catch an STD that makes them magical and famous and beloved by all. And it's like, what would happen in Black Hole if the bug made you irresistible instead of mutated?
That's actually sort of cool.
So apparently I was really into STD books in undergrad.
I wish I would have thought of that as a pickup line. I clearly was not very good at that. So she says, so that's art, like Jennifer's going from an art perspective. And Adriana's going from an STD perspective.
Yeah, storyline.
I mean, if you were to, we mentioned it earlier, but if you were, even though the plot and everything's not the same, he's put in with the Daniel Clowes and the Art Spiegelmans, the second wave of what R. Crumb was doing and stuff. So, I mean, this is definitely, and we may not be in love with it like other people are. I mean, I think we all like it well enough, but this is definitely one of the big indie darlings, and I think one of the things I've grappled with, is the genre. I used to tell people this wasn't horror, which maybe sounds really dumb to some people, but I'm not someone that leans towards horror. I like it when I like it. But I've just always thought of this as just a really dark indie comic, I mean, I don't think of Marilyn Manson as horror, like music, you know what I mean? Because I've just listened to crazier stuff my whole life kind of thing, but I know like my mom does or whatever, and I've just always seen this. I've always just marked this up with like Daniel Clowes, who's more of a comedic and ironic cartoonist, So I would say to jump into that kind of stuff from the cartooning perspective. But that's not to say that, Death Sentence, which I just looked up, so I'll look into that more, or Junji Ito for the body horror isn't the same. Cronenberg from a movie perspective, and definitely David Lynch from a, this is weird for the sake of being weird perspective,
This actually book, it is kind of body horror, but it's also like sociology as well of like the fitting in aspect or outcast aspect. Like there's aspects that could be thrown in for several different genres. Weirdly, so I have 2 books. One for the, I guess, STD aspect. The Beauty from Image Comics by Jeremy Hahn, where you get this STD, you become beautiful, and then your body burns out and catches fire, and like from the inside out, and you spread it, and whenever you get this disease, you become beautiful. And from the weirdness aspect, Mike Allred, the Ecstatics book that he did years ago.
I love Allred.
I see Allred in there.
It was a very weird book, but it's kind of all over the place, and the characters are interesting, and it's very cartoony. And all of the characters have these weird physical aspects to them. I mean, completely has nothing to do with this book, but just going with like a cartoon weird aspect.
Makes sense.
Yeah, like a throwback art that still has like a modernist vibe to it. Kind of thing.
Yes.
Yeah. That's Aldred in general to me.
Yeah, those are. I loved his Silver Surfer that he did.
He's one person where I will buy a book even if I have no interest in the book at all. If it's an Allred cover, I'm on it. Like it's one of the few artists that I will just collect for the cover.
So you'll be reading the X-Men book he's doing soon here.
Which one?
I don't know if it's like Krakoa X-Men, but he's doing an X-Men book. It's called
Excellent.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, I was going to say it's not called Ecstatic, but that's in my head because you just said Ecstatic from back when. But
That's so horrid. It's so funny.
when Rob Liefeld started bitching because they were using X-Force for it.
Those were the only ones I bought. Were the horrid ones.
Oh, Rob Liefeld was bitching? No.
I know. Weird. Whole.
I'm entertained by Rob Liefeld, despite how stupid he is. So I'm not like this hater. But yeah, he's not someone I would go to my, aside from pouches, I'm probably not going to go to him for any kind of information.
No. He loves feuding with people on Twitter too. It's always fascinating.
Half my club is blocked on Instagram because they had something to say about his feet or something like that, and it's like a game that they play now. Like how many get blocked by Rob?
I'm blocked by a writer.
Yeah, I'm blocked by a few. I don't even know what I did to some of them. To be fair, though,
you had an opinion. That's not allowed.
Yeah, that's probably why. I mean, I'm blocked by an artist that I really, really love, and I'm not blocked by him on Instagram, and I can't figure out why I would be blocked by him. But I do say dumb shit sometimes, so I'm not. I block a lot of people too for the smallest reasons, so I don't get insulted by it. But and that artist is Jamie McKelvey, by the way, and I have no clue why I'm blocked by him. But
sorry, Jamie.
Yeah, I know why. I know I'm blocked by Tom King. I have several videos that tell me why I am. Oh yeah.
You pissed off like Big League.
I mean, listen, if you're going to put out shitty Batman content, I'm going to talk about it.
You guys, we might have to listen. I quit arguing with people about Batman because I do love it. But with you, Dan, maybe one day we'll have a deep discussion with it.
Actually, weirdly, Greg, the bearded comic bro, him and I had a discussion, and
he liked it too.
He was just like, like that's what got me back into comics, and I have to kind of respect that. What's not for me isn't for other people.
Well, that's reasonable. But sometimes you guys, this will be a little sidebar real quick. Sometimes you guys don't even hear that people like Tom King Batman. I'll give a good example because Jennifer's in the chat. So they referenced it maybe 2 weeks ago. And Mars goes, before I met you, I didn't even know people didn't like Tom King's Batman. Jennifer continued to be like, that book is hated by everybody. Like that was like sort of her, you know what I mean? I'm like, I see that all the time.
I was like, wait, did my name get brought up?
Your name got brought up too. She said,
of course it did. God damn it.
So I always want to give like the exam that I was given by my political science teacher when that was my minor, and then I quit, not because of her, because of someone else. But she always was like, you need to write an essay about the other people's point of view, because sometimes I feel like people don't like the people that don't like Tom, because I can understand how you don't like Tom King's Batman, but I just want a video essay from you and Jennifer about why someone could like Tom King's Batman. Mm-hmm. Like, because sometimes I don't feel like that comes out in your guys' hatred of it. So
there's books by him that like I really like.
So specifically his Batman.
Yes, I feel like he doesn't have the Batman voice. The same reason why Scott Snyder, when he was writing Superman, he can't write Superman to save his life.
Yeah, but that's a different thing. What I want you to do is not talk about Babylon, not talk about Mr. Miracle. I just want you to go, why would someone like Tom King's Batman? That's it. Why would someone like it? Because I've been caught up. So I get why people don't, right? Because it was too artsy. It went for 85 issues. It didn't do, you know what I mean? Sometimes it just floated. You could tell that he did. So I understand why someone wouldn't like it. You could tell that he did a little bit like what we talked about in Black Hole. Like he made this decision to start ending it at a certain point or change the plot in the middle. So I get all of that, right? But I'm always curious to ask you guys that are so passionate about your hatred of it. Like there are people like me and Mars and Bearded Comic Bro that love it, right? So why would someone love it? And that's a different question. Don't do that here. You know what I mean? But
Jen is indifferent to Batman in general. So
am I.
To be fair.
But I love Tom King's Batman. So
for the people I have talked to that love it, it was a good entry point for them into Batman.
Yeah, but it's not really. You don't understand anything if you read Tom King's Batman. And
if you were a lapsed reader, though, you could at the beginning go in and be good.
Do you like the beginning though, and then hate the last 50 issues? Because there's some people that are like, it's good until the wedding bullshit, and then I hate it.
It was adequate.
Adequate.
Yeah.
Weirdly, when they had the Button storyline, with the issues Joshua Williamson wrote, those hit me in a better place than any issue Tom King had written, and I think that's where it started really bugging me. And then the I Am Suicide storyline, I was like, eh.
Yeah, the only one I really didn't like is the Nightmares run.
Yeah.
But I think I would like it better now that I understand what he was doing.
The wedding stuff I knew was going to be a MacGuffin. And then I had information that it wasn't going to happen. And
yeah, I knew that too. Well, this is a different stream, so we'll move on.
But as it went on,
now.
Yeah, let Adriana change it. She's clearly a Marvel girl.
I'm an indie girl more than
she's an Image girl.
Yeah, I dabble in everything else, but
I'm an Image girl, but I'm
never say I'm an expert. Yeah, I'm into the boom stuff.
I started out as a Marvel zombie, and I worked my way back to indies.
Let's work our way back to Black Hole.
Yes,
there we go.
Can I pose a question and then give a fun anecdote?
Okay.
What part of this book was the most shocking to you? Mine was the KFC scene with Dave. He was like every kid who's ever shot up a school before. The guy was bullying him in KFC, got the gun out, spit in his mouth, and was like, see how easy that was? Now you're fucked, essentially. And that was the part where I'm reading. I'm like literally holding my face. Like,
it's the most real life thing you'll ever see at a KFC, because I have seen fights break out in KFC. I have seen fights break out at what's the other Popeyes. Over fucking chicken sandwiches.
You clearly have never lived in South Carolina.
I live in Florida, where it's 35 degrees out and people are wearing parkas.
Oh my god.
Parkas.
Well, I haven't been to a KFC in nearly a decade, so
it's been about that long for me. But
yeah.
Most shocking.
My grossest moment most intense moment is definitely where, and it's partially because this is not a plot-driven book, but it's definitely where she decides that she's going to be with, I forget his name, it's not Keith, it's the other guy.
Rob?
Yeah, Rob, the one with the mouth. Like, it just was weird that she would just like switch. I think that's a good discussion too.
Hope yes.
Yeah, and then she makes out. For me, for sure, is the mouth thing.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that when I had to keep reminding myself that that this is almost a play on the romance comics, which, you know, the romance comics were all written by men for women kind of thing, because, you know, really Chris is written really dumb.
Yeah.
But for supposedly a very smart girl.
Questionable.
Yeah, but if you switch it to your mind into this dark parody, then it's okay.
Yeah.
But you know, if you don't, then you're like, you know, this guy doesn't know how to write women at all, right? But it's like this weird horror throwback to the romance stuff, so I can make excuses for it. I've seen him in interviews since, you know what I mean? He doesn't seem like the kind of guy that would be a shitbag, you know? So I made those adjustments in my head to it, but it was.
Jen, I heard it called that, and now I'm never going to not call it that.
Well, I mean, it was a neck pussy with teeth.
It was basically like Quado from Total Recall, but without the head.
Yeah. And it was a big. Hey, the other thing we haven't said about the mouth, it was a fucking rat.
What? Oh yeah, it would always mark on him when he was in his sleep.
Yeah, it was a rat. He just ratted him out twice at least.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
He's in love with Chris.
Yeah.
The girl with the webbed fingers.
The first thing I thought of when I finished this book the first time was this book is what would happen if Tim Burton and Georgia O'Keeffe had a baby. It's like just dark vagina imagery everywhere.
Wait,
everywhere.
Who? Georgia O'Keeffe and who?
Tim Burton and Georgia O'Keeffe.
Oh, Tim Burton.
She's the lady that draws the vagina flowers.
Yeah, I thought you said Timberland, the rapper.
Yeah, he's pretty.
I was like, I missed something in his lyrics.
So we'd have Helena Bonham Carter in this.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Somehow she'd be involved. Johnny Depp would somehow probably be one of the stoners.
Oh, my favorite thing, Gore Vidal said earlier, my favorite thing is monsters to your I didn't see it, I'm sorry to just jump that word, but that's a good recommendation if you like Black Hole.
I think that was Jen who had monsters.
Oh, maybe they no. Well, monsters are different. That's close, but Gore said my favorite thing is monsters. That book, yeah.
Dan, what's your shocking moment? Like, what was the grossest or most weird or most what the fuck for you?
So the KFC scene was the reality of it, and the flashback of what happened to Eliza was the one where I was like, oh, dude, I feel fucking just shitty, dirty looking at this, and like, you just know it's fucking horrible, and you're not ready for it because you're not expecting it, and then you just start reading it, and the longer it goes, and the imagery I was not okay with.
Yeah. You know how I feel about the rapey stuff and how I avoid it in general.
I'm like, that's a vulva. Thanks.
That's so funny.
Eroticism and surrealism. Louise Brunel would enjoy.
Yeah, the rapey. I think I read it too quick to really feel the rapey stuff. But yeah, I'm not into it either. When I didn't read the Game of Thrones books, but my wife did, and she'd be sitting next to me, and I'd be like, "This book," you know what I mean? She'll tell me when like that stuff happens, and it seemed to happen way too fucking much in those books as someone that didn't read them.
I watched half the first episode and then vowed to never watch it again for that reason.
Well, the show wasn't that bad. There's only a couple.
The book, I listened to the audiobooks originally, and when you have a 70-year-old man reading some of the sex scenes, which weirdly the most erotic stuff in the books is George R. R. Martin talking about food.
Yeah.
Like, that dude makes it sound like someone's going down on a chicken bone constantly. I mean a real chicken bone. Like, he talks about food like someone would talk about eroticism, where it's like, and then there was this supple pie that he buried his face in, and it's like really a pie.
Supple pie?
Like, he gets real into the food. Like, that's Jen always talks about, like, George R. R. Martin talks about sex, but he really talks about food, making it sound like sex.
Well, when I look at George R. R. Martin, I would think the two things that guy would be really thinking about was food and sex. Your Georgia O'Keeffe comments. So I know Georgia O'Keeffe, somewhat well. I own art books by her, and I got I have the desert stuff, and I even have some of the city stuff from her early years. So what makes you think Georgia O'Keeffe? I get the Tim Burton part for sure, but
because she went through the whole period where all she did was draw flowers that represented female genitalia.
Okay,
it's her most well-known period. I didn't even know she drew cities.
There was also the ones with the fruit also that had it like opened up and then the seeds.
Oh
yeah.
It's all imagery.
Yeah. I guess that's reasonable. Maybe I had a more conservative art teacher back in the day.
Mine were fucked up.
yeah. I mean, mine were fucked up too, to be honest. But yeah, I guess that makes sense. And maybe I didn't see those flowers that way. Because when I look at the frog, I definitely see a vagina.
I'm getting that tattooed on me, though. Like, the frog.
Frog?
Like, it's got to happen.
Yeah, I was like, Batman definitely wouldn't lick that frog. But maybe I have to go look back on that. And no one does know about the city stuff. That's why I thought maybe she's going deep, because I know the city stuff vaguely, which I like, but I know the desert landscapes. But yeah, the flower stuff, and you tell me that it's the most like well-known stuff. I was like, well, maybe I haven't looked at Georgia O'Keeffe as close as I should.
Yeah.
Her and H.R. Giger are all about the vaginal stuff. H.R. Giger in particular, I had a nightmare about this. It's like, what are you taking before sleep? Like, maybe some melatonin would work.
Yeah. Burns understands the connection between eroticism and surrealism. I think that's a good line.
There were a lot of scenes, especially when they were in the forest.
Jen, I saw that too. Legs. There was a lot of like woo happening. Some things were subtle, some things were not. Like, but at all times there was
like Keith dissecting the frog and staring into it, and for some reason imagining a Chris's black hole.
Yeah, she well, when one of his at least later influences was R. Crumb, you know, you could see that he was a bit more reserved than Crumb was in some cases, but you see it there throughout. And I think one of the interesting things in an interview I saw with him was that he would go, you know, he would ask, or maybe it was the Vulture interview that you and I read, Adriana, but he would say, you know, some stuff was like very specific. I had an idea for it and what it meant, and then people think others, but the other stuff wasn't. Other stuff was very generalized, and you know, that was open for interpretation, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And it, you know, it's hard to like really point at that. Did the frog really, you know, obviously it was supposed to look like a vagina, but did it mean anything, or was it like, I'm gonna make this incision look like that? You know,
well, from the very beginning, there's a focus on that kind of like slit imagery. Like, this is number one.
Slit imagery. There you go.
Whole body.
Going to be the name of my new hardcore band.
It's so shiny. But you see, immediately there's labias and this and that and the other, and then a lot of like the opening pages for the books, there's something with a slit in it. And in your mind, like, he could have drawn things in here that were not intended to be imagery, but because they have that same, we're immediately like, there's another vagina.
I feel like Frogina would be a better hardcore band name.
Do it.
Yeah, maybe not hardcore because they're, you know, they
neck pussy,
a little bit more liberal.
I'll grow
but if I cropped the frog out of this and I showed it to my wife, I go, "This is the comic I'm reading." She'd
be like, "Put it away."
Yeah, she'd be like, "You're reading porn comics now? We got to that." It looks like it sort of looks like there's a guy in there now that I'm holding it up to this camera.
Yeah, there's like something coming out of it.
Yeah, this is clearly not a 9.6 like you were holding. Maybe it was 9.6 when I bought it a few weeks ago, but
now the other side definitely
there's an anecdote on that though.
Sure. Anecdotes about frog incisions look like vaginas probably better from you than me or Dan.
So, do you guys know Ron Jam on Instagram?
Who?
Ron Jam Inc.
No.
Okay. Well, you should follow him. He's great. He's my very best friend in the whole world. And he came to Cincinnati from Texas to go to Cincinnati Comic Expo with us a couple years ago. He brought me Black Hole #1 and took me to go through the process. I've never had a slab book before at that point in time. He took me to the booth to go through the process of having a book sent in for grading. So this was the first book I ever sent in to get graded.
Oh, you actually sent it in?
Yeah, so we sent it in at Cincinnati Comic Expo. Like it was a whole experience we got to share together. He wanted to be able to show me how that process works and like what you do and everything like that. And
then wait for months.
First book ever. This was a couple of years ago. It took like 3 weeks.
Oh
yeah, now it takes like 6 months for that. Did you get notes on that? Do you know why it was 9.6 and not an 8? Can you tell?
No.
You'd have to actually check the website.
Yeah. I mean, back then you would have gotten notes.
A whole lot of them in existence because it's just not something people like think.
Slab very often, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have a brute force #1 slab. Like I have all kinds of shit that like people don't think to slab.
So Inja, before you read, just know there's some trigger warnings in there, you know, rape and some other stuff. Sure. A lot of hard dongs. Same dong.
Can you just highlight neck pussy and then highlight any other comment when you need to, but then re-highlight?
Yeah, just keep.
I just like that we're about to get banned for pornography.
Yeah, then re-highlight that one.
Me and Jen need to have our own stream called Neck Pussy, and we can talk about Georgia O'Keeffe artwork and Black Hole and any other phallic imagery in comics we can find, and it'll be a good time.
I won't miss it.
Let's go.
This is the Tintin that Gore Vidal is mentioning. on. My computer was new like 10 years ago. So Gore Vidal mentioned Tintin, which he's also very influenced by, and I guess his age, people weren't influenced by it. So this back, not this Blood Club thing, but this back right here is a I mean, today it would be called an homage. I don't know what he would have called it back then, but for Tintin, which I think Adriana might have seen on one of the interviews that she reviewed.
Sex and genitals and comic.
Let's do it, man.
Sex and genital, yeah. That's way safer for you guys to talk about than me and Gore Vidal could just be in the chat.
I could just see it going
Episode
off
1,
the
we can
rails
talk
real
about the
fast.
Batwing.
The shadowy Batwang that I got paid $80 for a raw book.
Me too. I got
I
83
slept
bucks.
on that book. I should not have. I was like, damn.
Listen, I read it before. I read that book
There's
before.
Wiener in this one. I would have read Batman.
Yeah, no, it was Shadow. I read it and didn't even
Shadow
know
of the Wang, Batman sequel.
Shadow of the Wang, yeah. I read that book and I read it because I bought it, right? I just bought it off the shelf. It was like, it couldn't be on the regular shelf because it was too big. And I go, oh, I'll take it. It looked cool. It had Bermejo in it, right? And I read it and I didn't even notice it. And then I saw the controversy and then I kept it because I thought I liked the first issue well enough. I thought it was going to be good. It turned out not to be that good.
You have
the
some
art
kind
was
of
good.
blinders.
Bermejo's art's great.
Genitals and art. Like, I don't know what this like superpower is that you have.
I was
you didn't
playing
realize
Destiny.
George O'Keefe was drawing vaginas and you didn't see the Batwing.
I jumped on Destiny video game chat and they were like, "Oh, what are you up to?" I was like, "I just got $80 for Batman's cock," and they're like, "Hold up, what did you just say?" I was like, "Oh, okay, hold on, let me explain this."
I need
it's nice when that
context.
happens. I'm about to go get a George O'Keefe book and look at it live here. I think
let's do it.
I think my kid is asleep in my comic room though. I'm currently in a garage. But I almost want to go try to find a George O'Keefe book and see if I'm just really dumb or maybe I'm more innocent than I thought. Most people wouldn't describe me that way, but
you know what? Actually, that could be your
That's
Instagram feed for a couple of days.
Yeah.
Vag or not vag?
There we go.
That's gonna be the hashtag.
Yeah, vag or dandelion.
Tulip or tulips?
Yeah. I might steal that and take credit for it.
Oh,
No,
I see Jen getting in on this. Oh, this was not a stream for Jen to like not be on. This is like her wheelhouse of like.
Hey, fun
Jen
fact: my mom watches these the next day. Hi, Mom.
Hi, pretty nerdy's mom.
Hi. It's clearly noted this show is not for kids, just by the way. So
we didn't show one dirty picture. We showed a frog incision.
We showed metaphorical imagery.
Yeah.
That's why her name is Peach.
50% of I don't get it. To me, it just looks like my son colored a Avengers comic.
Damn, tell us how you really feel.
Wow.
I like Peach Momoko, but I mean, it's simple, right? I don't see vulvas. Now I'm going to go flip through all my Peach Momoko books.
That'll be your George. Is it George O'Keefe or Peach Momoko? Tell me which one it is.
Hold them up against my George O'Keefe book and see what I get.
It's going to be a fun game on your show.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if I recorded any videos anymore, but.
Dude, I've been so
edited
slack.
videos I hate.
Huh?
Adriana, what were you saying?
Oh, I was just saying I've been super slack about that too. Like I haven't been posting any videos.
It's just edited videos are just painful to me. Like sitting down and having to hear my voice over and just being like,
Yeah, fuck that. I don't edit. Well, so I did my top 10. We were in Poland, and I did my top 10. On New Year's Eve, I went to like this restaurant, and there were clearly people on dates on it, but it was like the only thing that was open in a Catholic country. And so you can hear the stuff in the background. And I was like, okay, I'm going to edit this video.
You better be there next Saturday for the Rodney Barnes interview, Jen. Just saying.
She's not going to miss that.
I don't know. Like, if she gets another booster shot in between, she might. Because that booster shot didn't be in.
She's 2 months late on this one.
Yeah.
And I was going to edit, and I did. And so the first half of the video I edited, I would put like the action. I didn't edit my voice or anything. I would put like the comic, let it pop up. And then I was just like, fuck it afterwards.
Just roll with it.
I used to do reviews every week, and I'd do like my top 3, and I'd have like clips from the comic, and I was like, this is just too much fucking work. Like, and I had an old Mac at the time, so it took like an hour and a half to do a 15-minute video.
Yeah, fuck that. To be honest, I only care that Gore watches my videos, and I talk to him in the comments, and
that's all that matters, right?
Yeah, that's all I care about. And then he's very disappointed that I didn't have Carmen in my top 10.
Really? I liked Carmen.
I liked it. I don't love it.
Oh, I like Carmen too. Don't get me wrong. I liked it.
Where else are you going to get fart jokes and naked ladies and suicide? Like everything.
I like Carmen. Just, maybe my top 25.
I think mine would have been very emo this year because Bliss by Sean Lewis was very high on my list.
I only got the first 2 issues of that. I have the trade in weight, but I did like the first 2 issues.
I loved it. It was so depressing though.
Yeah, I liked it too. Druggy Star Wars vibe, like Star Wars characters, but with a bunch of fucking drugs. So. And
then Barbalian also was like completely heartbreaking.
So I quit Barbalian and Colonel Weird in the middle because I'm only up to the Black Hammer JLA crossover.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Hello, Mastodon Comics. How are you doing?
Mastodon. Start from the beginning and watch this at 2x.
So, do we have more black hole discussion to have, or are we wrapping up here?
I think we're fairly good, other than what would be our rating on it? Like, out of 10, what would you give it?
When I read it the first time, and it was the first comic I really got into, and I was a stoned college kid, I was like 10 out of 10. Best thing I ever saw in my life. Give me more comics. No. But now, 12 or so years later, going back and looking at it, I appreciate it in a different way, if that makes sense. So I would go with an 8 out of 10, just because apparently way back when plot wasn't important to me. And now in my more advanced tastes, I need a little more structure than that. So I'm going to go with 8 out of 10 on that one.
Chris?
When I read the singles and I mentioned it on Twitter, I said it feels like sometimes it's a 2 out of 5 and sometimes it's a 4 out of 5, right? So that would be, anywhere from a 4 out of 10 to an 8 out of 10. If I were to do it on a scale of 10, I would give it between 8.5 still. And I like it better than I did. So, you know what I mean? I hate the word hipster, but I was almost like the hipster that read it after the hipsters. And I'm like, okay, this is like this indie darling kind of thing. And does it really matter? Or was there just not that much of this kind of thing out there?
Yeah.
So whatever the Sham 65 album was in 1976, before there was real punk out there, and do people just remember that album as being important because it was the first one, but this is my 3rd read of this, and I did not read it in 2005 or anything like that. I read it I probably read this in 2015 the first time. I've owned issues of it for years, right? I've owned issues of it a long time ago and maybe read them. I don't remember. But yeah, so I'd go 8.5, and I like it more now, especially I'm going to be on the show, and I made sure I read interviews and I listened to him talk about it, and reading this book and seeing him, my big feeling is that it's like when I go watch Bad Religion now, and Yeah, and Bad Religion is like, they have all these ideas, and they're not anarchist punks, but they have all these high level ideas, and it's one of the original punk bands. If you go watch Bad Religion now, it looks like a dad. He's wearing like Dockers and almost tucked in shirt, but he's singing about, these things that.
But back when Against the Grain came out.
Yeah, he's singing. Well, he's singing stuff earlier than Against the Grain. If you watch the right thing, and to be honest, that's what Charles Burns looks like when he's like talking. He seems like just this guy that he does like advertisements is where he really makes his money, or covers of the Believer magazine, and then he has like these weird ideas that he wants to get out in comics. So I read it more like that, and so I'm right there. So I did 4 out of 5 on IG and Twitter. So maybe if I was on a scale of 10, I'd do like 8.5 or something like that, but right around the same as Adriana.
I'm sitting at 7.5 out of 10. What really bothered me is I was just like, I don't know what the point to this story is. I couldn't figure it out. Like, I was entertained. It was a little bit more disjointed than I remembered. And yes, that like hurrying kind of like at the end to kind of tie things up bothered me a little bit, but I was just like, what was the point of this book? Like, why? What was the hook other than the STDs? Like, I was trying to look for a theme, and I don't know if there really was a theme to be had.
Some people are okay with, some people can just appreciate a book like that and just, they don't need that kind of consistency or closure. But I think we're kind of all on the same page that we needed it to be tidied up a little more and have a little more reason.
Would 3 more issues have fixed it, though?
No.
Yeah, that would have just been him going. It would have been him just going, okay, well, I got another 3 years.
Yeah. It doesn't change the first 7. You either accept the book for what it was. So the way Adriana said she read it the first time, right? And to some extent, that's what I was trying to do in my head this time around. It's like accept it for, and I know you read it still in the trade version, right, Adriana? But accept it in the excited indie fan way. I tried to go back more like in the event sort of way that the new Black Hole came out, right? Yeah. So imagine those people like the kayfabe guys that were into it and trying to be cartoonists, that from 1995 to 2005 they got 12 issues of a comic that they were excited for, that came out every 10 to 15 months.
Now, kayfabe, sorry, I got a little lag on my side. Kayfabe said that like when the new issues would come out, him and all the people that he knew that were reading it, they would have to take all the previous issues out, reread them, and then read the issue, because it's like I said, I couldn't read comics in between this and our live because I wouldn't have remembered a damn thing about this book, So like having it come once a year, they had to go back and reread everything that led up to it, and kind of, it was like a whole new thing every time.
Yeah, that's probably a good decision, because I've probably read like 30 comics since I finished my reread, and I didn't remember. I don't really remember the Super Ravi scene. I don't remember the arm. You know what I mean? And I finished this like on Thursday.
The Hip Hop Family Tree by Ed Piskor.
I have really bad memory problem. Yeah, can't do it.
I think that was the last indie book I used to wait on. The Hip Hop Family Tree by Ed Piskor. He did a history of hip hop and had some horrible representations of some people in the hip hop community, mainly Russell Simmons in the books. But I think that's the last indie book I was like super excited about that came out very infrequently. You brought up the comic kayfabe, and I was like, oh yeah, like Ed Piskor, when he was putting that out, like I loved.
Yeah, that's probably the book that made him the most famous, aside from the kayfabe channel.
Yeah. So I have next month's pick for our show, and I went with something a little more mainstream, but with an artist who's getting a little bit of hype. I weirdly compared him to the New Age Frank Miller, but less racist.
Hopefully not racist at all.
No, but interesting art style that like when you see it, you know exactly who it is. It's a writer and an artist. And Daniel Warren Johnson's Beta Ray Bill.
All right.
He's not racist at all.
No, but I really like this story, and I thought it would be kind of a fun one to go with, especially with an artist and writer that I'm actually really appreciating right now. He did Wonder Woman Dead Earth, but another channel just recently did that, so I didn't want to be that close to them doing it, so went with Beta Ray Bill.
I love Beta Ray Bill, B plus A minus territory, but of his work that he, as a cartoonist, wrote and drew, it's definitely at the bottom for me.
You're not supposed to put these.
I'm not going to be on the show.
In my head.
Yeah. Oh, you're going to read it. Yeah. I'm not going to be on the show, so I can tell. What I love Extremity, I love Murder Falcon, and I love Wonder Woman Dead Earth.
Well, Wonder Woman Dead Earth was going to be mine, but No Good Comics just did it a couple weeks ago. I was like, it's too close. So.
Yeah.
Different audience.
Yeah, but I like this enough, and Beta Ray Bill is an interesting character who I don't think got used enough by Marvel.
No,
there's a little bit of everything in it, and again, it's interesting art. It's a writer who I think is really just kind of starting to pop since he started doing Big 2 books. Yeah. I know John's Comics is now in love with Murder Falcon.
Yeah, I don't know who else, but I push Murder Falcon on anyone I can. So, but Beta Ray Bill is great. The art is great for sure. So he's a very distinct, you see his style immediately, and just wonderful all the way around. Nasty.
Wonder Woman Dead Earth I recommend to anyone.
Yeah. Murder Falcon's one of those books where I can push and know for sure that the person's going to like it. Maybe they don't like it as much as me, but no one's going to say that book sucked. I
just remember the title just sent me away. I was like, Murder Falcon, what the fuck?
For sure.
I bought it because of the title.
Well, that's cool. That's cool. I'm pointing, right? Yeah. So a lot of people are turned off. I was originally turned off by it too. There's another cool book that is what you would think it is. It sort of matches, called Metal Shark Bro. And that book is like what you sort of think Murder Falcon would be. But when you read Murder Falcon, you realize that it's like much more, poignant,
Julian just picked up the shark one. What was it called?
Metal Shark Bro.
Metal Shark Bro. Yeah, he just picked that up this week.
Yeah. Oh, who's Julian? Oh, you're
Bike Zombie.
Who?
Bike Zombie on Instagram.
Oh, I don't know Julian. So Metal Shark Bro is awesome too, but that's more of a parody, fun sort of thing. Where Murder Falcon, if you've read it, you know what it really is.
So we're going to have joining us. I've already confirmed her. Sheena, aka She the Geek, HK Wifey, is going to be on the show with us. She loves this book. She's also been doing a saga read through with their Comics and Queens show with her, J Rails, Inja Binja, Moonlit Comics, and Nicole Hodnett, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. But Sheena is one of those great fans of channels who will support you, and she just started something working with the channel and actually going live now, so she's actually comfortable being on air, so she's going to come on with us. So very excited.
She's another Vegas comic fan, so
yes, slowly Shark Bro.
There we go. Slowly the Vegas crew is looking like the Ohio and the Portland people. Slowly we're gaining fans.
Who are the Ohio people? I'm the Ohio people.
Oh, you're an Ohio person too? There's so many Ohio people and Florida people.
I need to know who the Ohio people are so we can have Ohio people nerd meets.
Bearded Comic Bro is one that's involved with this channel. I'll think of more for you later. Biggie Shack, maybe, who's more of a collector than a reader, but there's Ohio people. Sorry for interrupting you, Dan.
We're sorry, Dan.
Yeah, I don't care. I'm part of the Florida crew, except I don't hang out with any of the Florida people. Like Rod lives about an hour from me.
Yeah, no one hangs out.
Yeah.
No pandemic. You're good.
Well, I guess Gambit is the only one I hang out with, and I barely see him. because he's working way too much.
No one wants to get a mouth on their neck.
Now you say that, Jen's gonna be like,
that's gonna be the next strain, is gonna be neck pussy. Everyone's gonna get a neck pussy.
That's crazy. That's the name of my YouTube channel, Neck Pussy Comics.
Oh, Gambit just tattooed his own leg the other day and did the George Perez Superman with Thor's hammer and Captain America's shield. He went full DC Marvel.
Cluster F.
Yeah.
Yes. But tattooing yourself does not sound fun, especially seeing where he tattooed himself, because I remember that being a not pleasant place on me when I got Lopan from Big Trouble in Little China tattooed on myself. So do you guys have anything happening on your channels while we're wrapping up?
No. I've just not been in the headspace to like really, like you said, the editing and everything like that. I just needed to like, honestly, I don't want to just put out content just to put out content. I want to be excited about it. I want it to be meaningful. I want it to be useful. So I decided I'm not going to like hold myself to that schedule anymore. And if I have something great to share, I'll share it. If that makes any sense. There's a couple of people that I've been talking to about interviewing. And
we'll do quick lives.
Yeah, I don't have the mental capacity and the emotional capacity right now to like sit down and film myself and then rewatch it 6 times. You know what I mean? Like I can't do it.
Yeah, I get it.
So I'm the opposite, except that I don't do a lot right now either because I have young kids, but I'm completely okay with just doing a video for no reason. I mean, really, I only want gore, Badal, Sleepy Reader, Comic Crack, maybe a couple other. I only make videos really so I can talk to them about comics. You know what I mean? There's a handful of people that would watch my videos, and so I'm the opposite. So I'm okay with just doing one for no reason. I just haven't had the time, and I did an unboxing for my like Gmart thing and talked about the books that I was reading, but when I went and watched it the other day, I was like, oh man, my Wi-Fi had an issue, which it might be the same situation now. So I'm sorry if that was the case, but, so I took it off of YouTube, but I'm a little bit more like stream of consciousness. I'm okay with that, but I'm not going to edit anymore. Probably very rarely will I edit anything. So
yeah, if I screw up talking, I just let it go. I don't care.
Yeah,
I'll get a pocket handful of great ideas. I'll crank them all out, and then it'll be a month of like I hate my YouTube channel. I hate myself. I have nothing exciting to say. I'm not gonna post anything.
There you go. I'll write notes, and then if I can convey it correctly, then it's a win. And if I can't, then it's not a win. But it's still up, for my boss to see and fire me later.
Well, I'm glad that X-Men video we were going to do with John never happened, because I was going to have to like completely cram about 3 months worth of X-Men into 1 week.
Do it.
Oh, we should have done it. We should have done that. Cram it. You would have been way more fresh, because I read X-Men and I'm like, this is clearly just methadone. I just can't quit. Yeah, I just can't quit. I was going to switch. Before John said he was going to switch to digital, I was like, I'm going digital only for superhero shit, just because I'm addicted to it, for the writers I like. And I walk into the comic store, I still buy them. So, I mean, I'm clearly just...
I only pick up the floppies on my Image books and some of the other indies, and the Marvel stuff, I just get digital and DC. I just don't care enough anymore.
Yeah, see, I'm the other way around. I'll read the soap opera shit, which is what I consider the superhero stuff. I'll read that in like solid, because I know it'll be on the shelf too. I don't have to put it on my pull list. And then I read, if I can't find it for cheap, like I found, whatever I just bought like Beatniks and Buenos Aires for like $12, and that's a Fantagraphics book from a few years ago. If I can find it for cheap, I'll buy it online. But for the most part, I really use my Hoopla. Vegas gives us like 30 like downloads, 20, 30 downloads, and so I read a lot of like European comics and like Fantagraphics stuff on Hoopla now.
On my channel tomorrow, I'll be getting drunk with Carlito and Chamorro Cinema, and we're doing Celluloid and Scotch, talking Big Trouble in Little China.
Nice.
It's the day before my birthday, and I wanted to do something fun, and that's one of my favorite movies.
He's great.
Thursday night, I will be talking with John Fleming. He is the writer and partner of Colette Turner. He's got a book coming out on Kickstarter called Murder Die Senpai. So we're going to talk about that in his Kickstarter. And then Saturday night, Jen, myself, and John's Comics with Kids will be just talking with Rodney Barnes about Substack, Philadelphia, Anita Hawes, Nightmare Blog, and the Lakers biopic show he's doing on HBO Max. Nice. And that's it. And that's pretty much my vacation is going to be shot because I'm going to be doing research for all this stupid shit. I mean, not stupid shit, but
finding out Rodney Barnes did that Lakers biopic. I would call it a biopic or whatever. But finding out Rodney Barnes is doing that makes me want to watch it, because I normally try to avoid anything Lakers. So.
He did the Wu-Tang An American Story also. He used to write on the Boondocks.
Yeah, the Boondocks I know. I've watched a lot of that Wu-Tang, maybe the first 3 or 4 episodes.
All the Wayans Brothers shows. Major Payne he was on. He was worked on Blade, the original one.
Yeah, so I obviously watched the original Blade. The sitcoms, Major Payne, I remember, but yeah.
Yeah,
but, I know he did the Wu-Tang stuff for sure. So that show's pretty good actually.
Yeah, interesting guy. And I want to ask about the status of the Philadelphia show that he turned in the script for, and he had casting ideas. That is it. We will be back next month. Make sure you follow, subscribe to Pretty Nerdy and Chaos and Comics. You will always get interesting info and stories from Chris's Instagram stories. Sometimes you'll agree. Sometimes you're like, I don't know.
Well, if you do one or the other, I've done my job.
There's sometimes where you posted something, I was like, I can't tell if he's doing this to be contrarian to get people talking. Although everybody fucking with John lately has been fun.
John did spoil Saga for me, so all that Spider-Man shit, he did spoil a Saga. Yeah, he did. I won't do it because he spoiled it. But
his hatred of witches and going in on
that
Scott
who
Smith.
that was? Okay.
Yes.
Jen reposted it, and I was like, damn, somebody really does not like witches.
He hates Scott Snyder now. Like, Jen's like, this is his villain origin.
Yeah.
So he's become his Tom King, and Jen, Rick Remender, is like the bane of her existence.
Really? Oh.
Yeah. She literally said that Black Science was basically him admitting to cheating on his wife.
I've only read volume one.
Like, I was like, where the fuck are you getting this from? She goes, listen, I can see these things. There's patterns. I was like, okay.
Feeling.
Yeah, like literally.
Bye. Later. Okay, real quick though.
Yes.
If you do go look for me on YouTube, do not follow just Pretty Nerdy. It's Take 5 with Pretty Nerdy. There's a girl on YouTube who got like a whole bunch of subscribers that were looking for me, and she just like she has a sugar daddy, and she like buys expensive shoes and stuff, and she like unboxes her shoes and like shows off her like ski trips in the Alps and stuff. That's not me. So go to Take 5 with Pretty Nerdy. Okay.
Thank you, Gore.
Bye, Gore.
Also, you occasionally have claim sales on your Instagram stories, and you have a page. So look for those randomly. And you just did a short box live with Nat, one of my favorite people in the community, who's now like in deep with short box. She wants to get me on there one of these weeks.
Yeah.
So I'm sure I'll have nothing to say.
It was a good time.
Yeah.
I got to talk Saga, so.
Yes, Mastodon. Rodney has a script in for the Philadelphia show for I don't remember what network. I'm going to press him about it. Last time I started talking about casting and he shut it down real quick. So we'll see how it goes. Well, we lost Chris, so let's wrap it up. We're almost at an hour and a half, which for us is actually early
That's
lately.
short.
Yes. So not an expensive book if you're interested. You can get it from your bookstores and Amazon, wherever you buy books. Try your LCS, of course. I think I paid $18.99 for it, but it depends where you go. And also next month, it is a very quick read. It's a Marvel book, so of course it's expensive at $15.99 for kind of thin trade. But it is Beta Ray Bill, Argent Star by Daniel Warren Johnson. Go in peace, my brother.
It's okay. We're all going to bed anyway.
Actually, I'm probably going to go out running since it's 37 degrees out because I'm a lunatic.
It's past my bedtime, but I want to go read all the books that I've been waiting to read this week. So, and my son went and got that Pokemon game that came out today, and then we took him to Kroger. We let him buy Mountain Dew Code Red, Doritos, cookies, Reese's, and he's been holed up in his room ever since. So,
I just finished the Death of Doctor Strange books, so I'm in the D's of my list. I think next up, I'm going alphabetical, which is probably horrible, but I read Saga already too because I had to.
I just reread all the hardcovers before the live was Nat, but I ran out of time, so I just barely started the third hardcover, and then I had to jump and read the new issue. So I cut back and went back and I read 54 just to
I have the big omnibus. I bought that one.
The big blue one.
Yeah. I'm up to the Detective Comics, so I've got 3 issues of that, and then Devil's Reign. Quick question before we go.
Okay.
Were you satisfied with Saga? Good show, Chris. Thank you for coming on.
I liked that they didn't give us what we want; they gave us what we need. And by that I mean, it's been gone so long that I think we subconsciously wanted all the answers right out the gate. But as comic lovers and appreciators, we don't want that. And we just don't realize it. We need a little bit of cliffhanging left over for the next issues to be as exciting as this one. So I think they gave us just enough answers to satisfy us, but left enough things vague where we're going to be looking forward to, the next 53 issues.
The time jump was a little jarring. Weirdly, the thing that wrote me in more was Squire.
Yeah, that's a very interesting. I want to see what's going to happen there. There's some mental health things going on, and I just want to see where they go with that. And the new character that they threw in, I think that he's going to be very pivotal, and I think that the relationship's going to develop in a way that people aren't expecting it to.
And I was happy to have Lion Cat.
I don't want to spoil it too much.
I was happy having Lion Cat back. I was happy having Lion Cat back quick, especially the whole interaction with Gwen.
I could have lived without that particular part of the interaction.
I don't need that part, but it was more about when the Will and her were talking, and Lion Cat's like, "Meh."
Yeah, I mean, it was what I needed it to be, But
that scene was a little, yes,
gratuitous.
Yes. Yeah, it went a little over the top, but then I'm like, well, I guess they're giving the fans kind of what they want because it's been a while.
But did those two characters really have to connect in that way?
No, I feel that was them going fan service. The Will has been a complete bastard for the last issues, and then him presenting the gift.
Here he is being a bastard all over again.
Yeah. I did miss. I'm going to miss Prince Robot more than anything. I swear to God, he was such an interesting character.
He was definitely complex, but I'm okay with him not being there. anymore. Like I think that now there's like room for new characters. I love that. Hi, thank you. He found the other pretty nerdy girl. Yes. Oh my god. All right, Dan, let's wrap it up. I need to go.
Great scene. That's a great quote to end on. Thank you, everybody, and we will see you
let's
next
leave it
month.
at that.
Bye.